Spider-Man has fought and fought with alternate versions of himself across media. In fact, some of the most successful Spider-Man media, No Way Home and Spider-Verse, literally are just Spider-Man engaging with other spiders. Miles Morales literally ran from every spider in Across the Spider-Verse. Then there was the Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5, issues 50 to 55, in which Peter had to fight his friends and fellow spider people when they were possessed, which resulted in some really cool fight scenes. However, if you are looking for something to watch while you eat that isn't this video, I really hate clones from the Spider-Man TV show from the 90s. An evil Spider-Man is messing everything up, and the only people fit to take him down are the ones that know him inside and out. And that's what makes these kind of fights interesting, isn't it? The hero being faced with everything they could be, the emotional struggle of that, knowing that they are as evenly matched as possible, it's entertainment like no other. Speaking of, I literally foam at the mouth for the Batman Who Laughs from Earth -22. His story, his fight with the regular Batman is one of the greatest things DC has ever come up with. We all know that Bruce Wayne can and sometimes will act a little out of pocket, but with a good reason. See the JL contingency plans, and it's just fun to see the character taken to the limit and actually, you know what, use those plans. The Batman Who Laughs comics are such good reads. We know that Bruce Wayne is incredibly intelligent and capable of emotional manipulation, but to see him use those tactics on himself and then seeing the mental struggle other him goes through to manage that, chef's kiss. Also, a whole thing with heroes is that they get put in situations where they could become the villain but prove their goodness by holding back, and sometimes seeing the hero not hold back is just as interesting. It's also just nice to get a reminder of how glad we should all be that Bruce Wayne wants to fight for good. Batman Who Laughs, you will always be famous. Pat yourself on the back, DC. And whoever did the character design, Gold Star, I hate looking at him, it's perfect. Deadpool has famously fought himself across the multiverse in the movies and in the comics. In Deadpool and Wolverine, there was the epic Deadpool core scene, which was likely inspired by the 2013 Deadpool Kills Deadpool comics. The miniseries features Dreadpool, a Deadpool determined to wipe all Deadpools from existence. He'd been driven insane, and in an attempt to end his suffering, decided to traverse across the universe, taking out all Marvel characters, famous literary characters, and eventually Deadpools along the way. This was supposed to ensure that he would essentially cease to exist. Seeing Deadpool fight himself is especially cool because he can't die. You'd have to really get creative or be really powerful in order to permanently end a Deadpool, which is what makes the whole thing so interesting. 616 Deadpool is said to be the only survivor of the Great Deadpool War of 2013. Up next, Superman. Superman has fought himself a few times, but more recently he brawled against his Earth 22 alternate in Batman Superman World's Finest. Unlike some other examples, the Superman 22 was not a bad guy. He was simply a Superman from a world that had no encounters with the multiverse yet, so he was more inclined to believe that Prime Superman was an imposter than him from another world. Although, like, personally, if someone showed up and looked exactly like me and talked exactly like me and could do everything that I could do, and I already lived in a world with superpowers and magic and aliens on Earth, it wouldn't be that hard for me to believe that the multiverse is real. Still, it would be kind of a shock seeing yourself, I guess. Regardless, seeing a fight between Supermans was cool because they are so evenly matched. Superman had to get creative to win the fight, ultimately defeating Super 22 by exploiting an overlooked weakness, his super hearing. Superman has often said that his super hearing is hard to deal with, it's why he learned to control it. Prime exploits this weakness by pulling the fight into a cave system. 22 thinks Prime did it so he couldn't see him anymore, but the real reason was to get 22 in an echoey, loud chamber so when Prime screamed at the top of his lungs, 22's ears would probably bleed and the cave would collapse. Think about the last time someone screamed in your ear. No wonder Superman's plan worked. Mr. Fantastic met the Maker, who is him, but if literally everything went wrong. Is Mr. Fantastic 616 a completely stand-up guy all the time? No, but he's clearly, as we learned with the Maker, not that bad, so maybe we should be grateful. The Maker is Reed Richards from Earth 1610. His backstory is vaguely similar to that of his 616 counterpart in the sense that he was born and he did get superpowers. Everything in the middle is way more tragic. He still met Sue Storm and proposed, but since this is the world where everything seems to go wrong, the ultimatum wave struck at that moment, sending her into a coma. He went to go find the culprits, but then because she woke up alone, she rejected the proposal, and then he had nothing left, so he moved back into his family home, which was not a good situation, and then he blew up up that home because his mental sanity started breaking. The Maker's big moment was the 2015 version of Secret Wars. After ending up on Battleworld, he teamed up with his 616 counterpart to take down Dr. Doom, but he isn't a good guy, so he does betray him, trapping him in a time bubble. He was eventually defeated and then went on to fight other Reeds, even taking one of them, Reed 6160, as his prisoner in 2023's Ultimate Invasion. Moving into the MCU, we have the Scarlet Witch facing off against her Earth 838 counterpart in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Does this one count as a fight? 838 didn't really do much. She was just kind of sent flying like 10 seconds in. However, she did show that she is capable of fighting and does have powers. She just didn't use them fast enough. She kind of ended up winning the fight by reassuring Wanda that the boys would be loved, so kill him with kindness. Doctor Strange also fought himself in this movie. He met Sinister Strange after Wanda threw him through a portal into a universe that was essentially collapsing in on itself. Turns out the reason the world was in such bad a shape was because of Sinister Strange. Driven to the point of, I would argue, insanity, by not being with Christine Palmer, Strange decided to hunt down variants of himself across the multiverse that were also not with Christine. He was corrupted by the Darkhold, but it is still a very weird choice. Strange failed to stop an incursion on his world, and now everything is dying. And after that fight with the MCU Doctor Strange, so was he. It wasn't an easy fight. Strange struggled because his foe was supercharged thanks to the Darkhold, but he managed, and it resulted in a very cool piano moment. Supergirl's run-in with Black Kryptonite resulted in an evil version of herself spawning from literally like the recesses of her mind. How did she get exposed to Black Kryptonite? Lex Luthor, of course. Literally, who else would it be? He was only trying to corrupt Supergirl. He just ended up getting way more than he bargained for. Dark Supergirl was incredibly powerful. She took on most of the Justice League members and won. It wasn't until facing off against the original that she was finally occupied long enough for Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman to arrive to help. Through the help of a kryptonite ring and the magical lasso of truth, they were able to fuse the two Supergirls back together. Captain America also fought himself in the MCU, and I'm talking about the infamous fight in Endgame that resulted in Cap's infamous line about a certain piece of himself. That was such a great fight. The shields hitting each other and throwing himself off by saying Bucky was alive. I was sitting in that theater, jaw dropped. But right before that fight, Steve had to get the scepter somehow, right? And he did so by whispering "Hail Hydra" to those agents. Not only did that work, but it was also very similar to something that happened in the comics. Taking it back to 2016 when a panel from Captain America Steve Rogers took the internet by storm. It featured everyone's favorite patriotic hero saying "Hail Hydra," two words no one ever thought he would say. People freaked out about this, thinking their favorite heroes suddenly turned to the dark side. Eventually, it was shared that this Cap was not our Cap at all. It was Evil Steve from Earth 61,311, who did in fact work for Hydra. Steve 616 eventually did rejoin the picture and defeated himself in Secret Empire 10. This comic might have inspired the MCU more than we realized. Not only did it have Cap fighting himself and saying "Hail Hydra," but it also featured Cap wielding Thor's hammer. And of course, we are finishing off the list today with the Justice League fighting their evil counterparts, the Crime Syndicate of America from Earth 3. Imagine the Justice League and their powers and literally just flip it. Superman once called them the diseased version of the Justice League, and he could not be more right. Superman is Ultraman, and he gets his powers from kryptonite. Wonder Woman is Superwoman, and she has a lasso of evil. Batman is Owlman, the Flash is Johnny Quick, and the list goes on and on. Ultraman is also the Superman that traveled across universes, draining other Supermans of their powers. The team has been defeated and resurrected multiple times, but they were tough to beat. No one knows quite how to defeat you quite like yourself, but what do you think? Let us know. Bye!